right, so I'm so excited to bring on Marc Spears, senior NBA writer for ESPN, and also the man that brought me stress and changed my whole weekend plans when he let the world know that the Warriors have interest in Kevin Durant. Marc Spears, please welcome and talk to us because I need to know why this is happening and why the Warriors and Kevin Durant are considering a potential reunion.
First of all, thanks for having me on the show, and I'm glad you guys took over for them two dudes. Just don't take their jobs from them. They got families and they got to pay bills and everything. But to you both, keep changing the game. Very, very cool to see what you guys are doing. And what was the question?
Well, so how did this come about? Because we were all just proceeding, and there were a list of teams that Kevin Durant provided where he was interested in being traded to, and the Warriors weren't on that list. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I wake up over the weekend and there's reporting from you. You're on ESPN radio, and then you had,
Yeah.
that tweet that was just up, but that there seems to be some interest. And I know Marcus Thompson wrote about it some more later that weekend.
Yeah.
And it seems like the interest is mutual on some level.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's mutual. Certainly there was an odd divorce there when they had went to three straight finals. And so a lot of people wonder, like, how could he go back? Why would he go back? Why would they want him back? Oh, he's Kevin Durant, like I said. And so I think that Bob Myers was essentially doing his due diligence and calling and seeing, if they could potentially look into it. I mean, certainly from a futures standpoint, such a move could be costly. I mean, hypothetically, you would have to include names like Wiggins and Wiseman and Moody and Poole and, Kaminga. Those could be names involved financially and also to adhere to what the Nets want. And what I've been told that the Nets want is they want a young all-star or a future all-star. Well, those guys are all on that list right there. Obviously, they would want draft picks and the potential to swap draft picks. But if you're getting a collection of great young talent, those are your draft picks. I mean, draft picks, you don't know what you're going to get. Here, you know what you're going to get. And these, you had mentioned earlier that about Siakam's age. Well, other than Wiggins, all these guys, I believe, are under 25.
Right.
So, the Warriors would be mortgaging their future. And the Nets would probably have to trade. They would have to trade Ben Simmons in order to accommodate a deal that would include Wiggins. But
Right. I was going to ask
wonder if the
about that.
Warriors are getting to the part where they're starting to think in a Yankee mindset where, look, forget about the future. We're trying to win now. We're trying to ride the Steph Curry wave as hard as we can until he shoots his last three.
Right.
And if you bring Kevin in, I think they're the favorites going to next season, but they're the super favorites after that, right? Assuming they're healthy. Then another thing you're thinking about is, okay, what if Kyrie goes to the Lakers, right? Are you the favorites anymore? What about if Kevin goes to Phoenix, which is certainly possible. Kevin has a great relationship with Monty Williams, and they have a package that they could do as well. It's kind of like an arms race. You might want Kevin Durant just to keep him from going to Phoenix, right? Or to basically counter what the Lakers could potentially be doing. So I think there's some gamemanship as well. But, Kevin still has a great relationship with Stephen Curry and Bob Myers. The fact that he and Draymond did a podcast together means that they're still brothers. They're like just two brothers that fight all the time. They're fine. Perhaps the only thing they'd have to work on is, him and Kerr getting on the same page. But ultimately, I know the way Steve is, he'd figure it out.
So I know the Vegas odds, like right now, favor the Suns first, and I think the Raptors second.
Yeah.
What is your experience, your gut, whatever you're hearing, who do you think really is like the front runner to potentially get him? Or is this even going to happen? Or are the Nets going to just, stand pat?
Well, Miami, I get the gist that they don't really want to move out of Adebayo, right?
Okay.
And I think that Adebayo would certainly have to be moved in such a deal. So I wonder how interested is Miami really when they have put so much time so much love and got so much heart into their homegrown guy and Bam Adebayo. That to me kind of maybe lowers Miami from that potential list.
Okay.
Phoenix is certainly high on the list because of his relationship with Monty Williams, because of Kevin's relation. I mean, Chris Paul being who he is certainly would make life easier for KD. And then you have another superstar in Book, but obviously Ayton might be gone, Bridges might be gone. So
they're going to sacrifice their wing depth, aren't they?
So then if you do that, like what's left? That's the problem I think with Toronto, is if you move them to Toronto, like what's left to compete with? I can't see Kevin, like ultimately the Nets have the cachet to say where he goes, but only to a certain extent. If he doesn't want to go somewhere, then how do they really make that trade on the other side? Like you're not going to trade in Oklahoma City, right? You're not going to want to go back there. And so it basically, to me, the list gets smaller and smaller and smaller, because not only I assume Kevin wants to be moved to a place where he's happy, but also a place where he can win a title.
Right.
So if you make a trade, if the Warriors trade their young guys for him, Steph's still there, Clay's still there, Draymond's still there, they could still win a title. And so that's why I think what I initially said on ESPN radio is, with each passing day, I wonder if the allure of going back to Golden State, a place where he knows the arena. He had a nice crib in San Francisco downtown overlooking the whole bay, had an amazing view, like on the 100th floor. He knows what restaurants he likes. He knows how to play with those guys. He knows the system. Like, to me, that's the easiest adjustment. And if they move those young guys for him, they're still, the big three is still there. So then you just fill in the blanks with some minimum contracts. So I just wonder, with each passing day, for the Nets, for both sides, does the Warriors package, not knowing particularly what it would be or what would make the Nets happy, the youth or the talent that they have. If I'm the Nets, to me, like, that's about as attractive of a deal as I could get. And if you want Kevin back, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you dearly.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Lacob is willing to deal with that cost, but because they seem very invested in the youth movement.
My guess is Lacob wants as many banners as possible while Steph is there. I'm not speaking for him, but I just being in the Bay, there's a sense, there's this taste, a championship taste now.
Of course.
That I think it's the race to win with Steph rather than to pass the torch like the Spurs for the future. I think they're like, look, we're going to squeeze Steph as much as possible and put him in the best position to win and figure the rest out later. But they are in position for the future. But the fact that you make that call tells me that you're willing to give up that future, right? Because that's what it's going to take to get Kevin.
We'll see. I mean, the Warriors really haven't done that much in this free agency. They let a lot of guys go. They signed on. Right. But they signed Dante. They re-signed Kevon Looney. And so they still have to fill out that roster, but we just haven't heard much from them right now. So I wonder if that's because they're contemplating Kevin Durant. Are they waiting for the market to shake out? So it's going to be interesting to see. You brought up the Lakers. And, you know, there's a lot going on with the Lakers always. So Jeannie over the weekend tweeted something that kind of seemed cryptic, and people didn't know what to make of it. There's also been a lot of talk about Kyrie Irving. They have a new head coach. Do you think Kyrie's a player Ham would want to get over on the team? And, you know, I mean, I know people are kind of banking on Bron and Kyrie's past relationship and sort of Bron being able as the leader to manage some of what comes with Kyrie. But, like, you know, I mean, who wouldn't want a talent with like Kyrie? But then it doesn't seem like the market right now is really active for him either.
Yeah. Well, I agree with Jeannie Buss. I miss KB too. I definitely miss him.
Kobe?
And I'll never not miss him. It's still getting to the point now where I'm getting just comfortable listening to his video interviews again. And I do wonder what kind of impact he'd have in this crazy world, because I do believe people of all walks of life, no matter how beautiful or dark their heart is, could have been impacted by his words and his actions in terms of diversity and making the world a better place. But
Do you think
yeah,
that's all her
those were
tweet was,
no,
reminiscing
no.
about Kobe?
I'm just telling you what I'm saying. I,
What is
that's a
she
good
thinking,
question.
though?
Yeah, I don't. Hey, you can go a lot of ways with that one. I'll give her the benefit of doubt, I guess, because I don't know her that well, and just think that's some Kobe reminiscing. But I talked to Darvin Ham. I got a big story in Anscape tomorrow talking about him, and he told me in terms of the speculative stuff. He can't specifically talk about somebody that's not on his team, but he told me that he watches TV and the History Channel and he doesn't pay attention to rumors, for what that's worth. But he
Okay.
did say he has a great plan for Westbrook, and they've had some very solid meetings. And he gave me some other insight that I want you guys to wait and read the story and hear what
Okay.
he has to say about Russ. But I think he feels like if Russ is on the roster, he can make him the Russ of old.
Okay.
So
Well, that
he
would be huge for the
also,
Lakers if true.
yeah, well, I mean, it has to be, right, if he's there. But I can see
Right.
Darvin. Darvin's a no nonsense, keep it 100 guy, not intimidated by anything. Will let you know he's from Saginaw, Michigan, and seen some stuff, so nothing scares him. And so I think he's always going to be honest with LeBron, Anthony Davis, the franchise. That's all he's ever been.
Right.
And he's also a former player, so the players have seemed to bite into the former NBA player being their coach and doing well with that. So I really like, Darvin has like 14 years of experience, learned a lot under Coach Bud. I expect him to do a great job, whether it's Kyrie there or Russ there. He's been waiting for this moment. And even though it's a huge moment for a rookie head coach, I don't think he's your typical rookie head coach.
Okay. All right. So you said that drops tomorrow?
Drops
Your
tomorrow
story.
morning.
Okay. All right. I need to definitely check that out because I'm really curious to see
Well, no, I'm gonna have
what.
another debate issue for you tomorrow. Once you read it, you'll have a couple. Like I said, I gotta
Okay.
save some stuff. I gotta save some stuff.
I know. I want to know because, I feel like I often, it's always like, no one's going to trade for Russ with that contract. And then I always start to see people talking themselves into Russ. And I don't know. I mean, obviously he's on the team right now. So the Lakers have to plan as though he's on the team. But you hear
Yeah,
like the fans talking and some are divided on it. It didn't seem to be a great fit last year. I know they had
yeah,
injuries and all of that stuff, but it didn't seem to be a great fit last year. So
yeah.
I'm
But
just
I
really
will say
wondering what he
this:
could do.
I am keeping my eye on the Indiana Pacers with
Okay.
him. There has been some. I've heard that they could potentially still be interested in moving out some big salaries, like Miles Turner, who's actually in Africa right now,
Okay.
visiting the continent for the first time, and also Buddy Hield. Both of them have big contracts, but I think financially they match up pretty well with Russ's deal. So if you
Okay.
move Russ to, that's the thing that makes Russ a deal more attractive now than say a year ago, is that he's in the final year of his deal.
Right,
So with
right.
that
It's
47
expiring.
million, there are teams out there that are like, you know what, we kind of want to start from scratch. We take that big contract that erases basically dang near $50 million from our books.
Right.
And
Okay.
so there are some teams out there that want to, some owners like, this team ain't that great. Let's start over. And I think Indiana is one of them. They traded Sabonis, they traded Malcolm Brogdon recently. And so I don't think they're done. So that to me is something that I think the Nets also need to be worried about. There's not a lot of places for Kyrie's salary where they could go.
Right.
So if they are really interested in making that deal, I mean, they got to be careful because perhaps if the Lakers really want to do a Russ deal and the Nets are dragging their feet, they at any time could send him to Indiana.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Marc. I appreciate it. I'm going to be looking out for that story tomorrow because I want to know what Mr. Ham is going to do with Russ, definitely. Thank you for coming on and chopping it up with me. Appreciate it so much. A legend, Marc Spears.
Thank you for the love and continued success.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.